I'd like to talk a little bit about chipping and actually the feel associated in chipping, because we talk about the technique quite a lot. And one thing we actually tend to overlook is the feel aspect of it. You know, I think people are guilty in their chipping techniques of becoming a little bit rigid, a little bit tight, because we think of it as a little bit of a shoulder rock only. And we do need our feel element involved into the technique. Best way to do this is to appeal to something that you learned when you were 4 or 5 years old, and that is your judgment of distance. And how do we transmit that from looking at a target, in this case the flag, which then absorbs some thoughts and calculations into here and ultimately feeds it down into our hand. So the best way to do this is just throw a few. And if we just literally just stand here and just try and throw it onto the earliest part of the green and then just let it release, and we'll just get an identification between the target and you. And the other thing here is, as you do that, you start to see the green very differently. So instead of seeing it as a golf shot, you're seeing it now as an overall contour. And so you're thinking feel and judgment, you're not thinking golf technique, which I think is very important, it's very powerful. If we then go on to the actual technique itself, one thing I want to try and do here is suggest that we don't get stuck on a certain club. We can pick any of these clubs, you know, from sort of 7th or 6 iron, right the way through to all your wedges. And really what I've done here is I've laid a couple of line-up sticks down just to create a box for me to land in, my earliest point of landing on the green, and then just get to know what the club does. So we land maybe 3 or 4 balls with each club, land them into the box and just see where they release. I'd probably take the flag away for this so that we're not stuck on it, and just really get to the point where we just land, release, get an average, obviously, don't take it on one shot, get an average, and really get to know what your clubs do. Your wedges are going to feel very different to something like a 9 iron or an 8 iron or a 7 iron, which are much stronger clubs, obviously. And then the last aspect really is back to the feel. In the technique, I often see a lot of club players get into the position, they get all nice and positioned there, but they then think right rigid and the arms lock up and get very straight, and then this takes away all that feel element that we've already talked about. So I really want to get the feeling, instead of the locked arms, let them hang, let the elbows just sort of list in towards your ribs, which is always nice. You can always actually just touch your elbows to your ribs, and then really lighten the fingers. Yes, it's a shoulder action. Yes, it's dominated by the shoulders, and there's not too much hand and arm play other than backwards and forwards, but we want this to flow, just like it does when you rolled it. You know, that just flows. It's not rigid, it's not sudden or jerky, it's a nice rhythm. So have a go at all of those things. We're just going to pop one down here, drop it in the box, let it release. 2 or 3 more with that club, change my clubs, and then this is fantastic pre-round. It's great obviously to master as a practice session, but just before you go to play, it's a wonderful way of just releasing some of those nerves and getting you to feel judgment of distance. So have a go at it and enjoy it. It's a great shot to play.